Alright guys, we're going to find the equation of a quadratic given some limited information. Okay guys, so it says here a parabola has x-intercepts of -3 and 4 and it passes through the point 1, 24. Find the rule for the parabola. So guys, we talked about last video, if you watched it, that there was the polynomial form, which is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and then you had the turning point form, which was of the quadratic, which was y equals a times bracket x minus h squared plus k. But there's also the factorized form. Okay, now the factorized form is y equals a times x minus x minus. Okay, now this is the factorized form. Okay, now I didn't put anything in there because, you know, there's different ways to write it or different letters to use. But this gives us the solutions. Gives the solutions slash the x-intercepts. Remember, when we want to find the x-intercepts of a quadratic, we got to we got to solve it. We got to factorize it, and then we got to find out what values of x make the y equals 0. Okay, so this gives us our x-intercepts. So we have x-intercepts of -3 and 4. Okay, so guys, to get an x-intercept of -3, okay, so we need this bracket to be equal 0, and if I substitute -3 in for x, well, I need this bit to be +3. Okay, guys, now let's look at the other bracket. We know that 4 is the solution. Okay, so we substitute 4 in for x. We need -4 over here to give us 0, to give us a solution. So again, if I substitute this 4 in for x, 4 minus 4 is 0, and that's clearly a solution. Okay, so the x-intercepts get us this far, but we still have to solve for a. Okay, and that's where this point comes in. Right now we have 1, 2, 3 unknowns. Okay, we have y, a, and x. Okay, and we need to solve for one of them. So if we want to solve for one, we need the other two. And this point gives us the other two. It gives us an x and it gives us a corresponding y. Okay, so we need to solve for a by subbing in the point 1, 24. Okay, and again, that gives us an x and a y. Okay, so 24 is the y, so I substitute 24 every time I see y. So 24 equals a times, and I substitute 1 in for x, so 1 plus 3, sorry, times 1 minus 4. Okay, so 24 equals a times 4 minus 3. 24 equals, now guys, you don't need to do all these steps, okay, if you feel comfortable. Okay, and so obviously I have to divide both sides by -12, so a equals -2. So therefore, y equals -2 times x plus 3 times x minus 4. Now guys, if you wanted to, it doesn't tell us to, but if it said give your rule in polynomial form, then you'd expand this. Okay, but this is a perfectly fine form of a quadratic. Okay, next question. It says the coordinates of the turning point of a parabola are 2, 6. Okay, and the parabola passes through the point 3, 3. Find the rule for the parabola. Okay, well guys, obviously it gives us a turning point, so we're going to use the turning point form. Okay, so the turning point form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Now the turning point gives us this. So the turning point equals hk. Okay, and it equals 2 6. Okay, so obviously my h equals 2 and my k equals 6. So I'm going to sub in. So I'm going to sub in h equals 2 and k equals 6. Okay, so what I now have is y equals a times x. Well, 2 goes in for h, so it's going to be minus 2 squared plus 6. Okay, again, I have 3 unknowns. I gotta solve for a. Okay, and I've got a point, so it gives me an x and it gives me a corresponding y. Okay, which will allow me to substitute those in, and the only unknown will be a, and we can solve for it. Okay, so we're going to sub in 3, 3. Okay, and solve for a. Okay, so instead of writing y, I've got a value for y, which is 3. So I'm going to say 3 equals a times, I've got a value for x, which is also 3. 3 minus 2 squared plus 6. Okay, so 3 equals a, and 3 minus 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. A times 1 is just a, so I've got this. So obviously I have to subtract 6 from both sides, so a is going to equal negative 3. So now we can say y equals negative 3 times x minus 2 squared plus 6. Okay. Now guys, again, if you want to check these, like if you wanted to check this, what you could do is you just go to your calculator. Oh my goodness. This is killing me. There we go. So you just go to your calculator and you graph this. Okay, so if I go to my graph mode, menu 5 for graph, and I type in negative 3 bracket x minus 2, close the bracket, and I'm going to square that. Okay, plus 6. Hopefully this doesn't stuff me up with this. Yeah, it should be fine. Okay, execute draw. Okay, now guys, if I do my view window, and I know my turning point is 6, so I just need to make my y max bigger than 6, so I'm going to make it 8. Execute draw. Okay, so there's my parabola, and I can see, let me see here, so if I go if I get the turning point, so if I go gsolve, and this is going to be a max, I go gsolve max, it says 2, 6, so that's my turning point's at 2, 6. And if I go gsolve, and I do something like a y calc, so when x is 3, y is 3. 3, 3 is on it. Okay, so you know, if you do have access to your graphics calculator in that section of the test, you can check your work. Okay, so let's just do the last one. It says a parabola passes through points 1, 4, 0, 5, negative 1, 10. Find the rule for this parabola. All right, guys, it doesn't give us enough. Okay, it doesn't give us any special points. It doesn't give us x-intercepts. It gives us a y-intercept. Okay, and it doesn't give us a turning point. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have to do a series of like simultaneous equations. And we're going to have to use y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, and we're going to get a series of equations. Okay? Now, so let's so these are our x's. That's x and y, and this is also an x and y. Okay. Now notice, guys, we've got 4 unknowns. Y, A, B, and C. Sorry, that's like 5 unknowns. Y, A, B, C, and X. So what's that for? 4 unknowns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is 5. Okay, but then what we can do is when we substitute in, we're going to be left with 3 unknowns. Okay, so we're going to do a series of we can do a series of simultaneous equations. Okay, so we're going to get equation 1 by subbing in or substituting in 1, 4. Okay, 1 comma 4. Okay, so y is 4, so we'll have 4 equals a times 1 squared plus b times 1 plus c. Okay, so 4 equals a plus b plus c. Okay, so you guys can see that. Okay, 1 squared is 1. 1 times a is a. Okay, so we're going to get equation 2 by subbing in, okay, 0, 5. Okay, so y is 5, so it's going to be 5 equals, okay, a times 0 squared plus b times 0 plus c. Now guys, I should have known this earlier. I don't know why I didn't do this. Let me do that. Okay, sorry guys, I was going to pause and redo it, but it doesn't really matter because now we've got 5 equals c. Okay, so what I can do now is I can sub c equals 5 into 1. Okay, so now I've got 4 equals a plus b plus 5. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Okay, so I have a plus b equals negative 1. Okay, and I'm going to call that 1b. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a third equation by subbing in, what was the third point? Negative 110. Okay, so y is 10. Okay, and c equals 5. I'm going to put c equals 5 into this as well. Okay, so this gives me an x, it gives me a y, and it gives me c. Okay, so 10 equals, where are we at? Okay, a times negative 1 squared plus b times negative 1 plus 5. Okay, so we have 10 equals, well, negative 1 squared is 1. A times 1 is a. This is going to be minus b. This is going to be plus 5. Okay, and then if I wanted to, guys, I can subtract 5 from both sides. So 5 equals a minus b. Okay, and I'm going to call that 3. Okay, now notice, guys, I now have 2 equations with 2 unknowns. Okay, so I've got this equation and I've got this equation. Okay, so I've got 2 equations, 2 unknowns. And there's different ways to solve this, guys. Okay, generally I prefer to do simultaneous equations, so I need to get one of these. Sorry, I tend to do substitution. So I'm going to, but you could do elimination here, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange this, and I'm going to say, sorry, and I'm going to add b to both sides. So I'm going to say a equals 5 plus b, and I'm going to call that 3b. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to sub 3b into 1b. Okay, so instead of a, I'm going to write 5 plus b equals negative 1. Okay, so guys, obviously 5 plus 2b equals negative 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So 2b equals negative 6, and I divide both sides by 2. Okay, so b is going to equal negative 3. Okay, now I can sub this back into either one, but I'm going to sub it back into 3b. So I'm going to sub b equals negative 3 into equation 3b. Okay, so a equals 5 plus negative 3, so a equals 2. Okay, so now I have a, b, and c, so therefore y equals 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. And again, guys, if you wanted to, you could put this into your calculator, graph it, and just confirm. Well, you don't even have to graph it. You can just substitute these values in, the x values in, to see if you get the corresponding y value. So what I mean by this is if I substitute 1 in for x, okay, so if I substitute 1 in for x, I should get 4. Okay, so 1 squared is 1. Okay, that makes this term 2. Okay, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. So I get 4 minus 3. Oh, sorry. I get 2 minus 3, which is negative 1, plus 5 is 4. Okay, so this is the right answer. Okay, so guys, remember you can always check your answer with mathematics. Okay, guys, so that is getting the equation of a quadratic from limited information.